Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Mario Meyer, who is the founder and CEO of Reyem Tech. Mario, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for asking. And thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast episode. Really excited to have you on, talk all things business, your background, and hopefully we can all learn a thing or two. So, without further ado, shall we make a start?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. Amazing. So, Mario, if you can take us right to, I guess, the very beginning, right? Childhood and perhaps early teens and, getting into career, business. What did that look like? Was business and entrepreneurship always on the agenda? And maybe if you can walk us through a little bit of the journey getting to the position that you're in now.
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. So I come from a military slash academia family in Brazil. When I was really young, my teenage years, my uncle was a retired Navy officer and he opened a tech company. So he was actually supplying tech systems to the Brazilian Navy, like embedded ship systems, radar systems, arms systems, and all of that. And I think the first time I did an internship for him, I was like 14, 15 years old. So I started my career really young. I started with computers around age 8 when computers weren't around for everybody, right? We had a computer at home because my mother was doing her PhD and she bought a computer to do her PhD on the computer. And I was, when she wasn't doing her thesis, I was playing around with the computer
Got it.
when kids didn't have computer at that age, right?
Yeah.
That's in the 80s, so it was very scarce at the time. And I always liked that. I always tried to poke around, see how things were working, and start messing around with it. I remember when I was already a teenager, my uncle, he had that company, but he was also a professor at a master's for computer science. And I was like 15 or 16 years old when he asked me to come to one of his classes and teach his students how do build and maintain computers hardware.
Yeah.
At the time we would build computers from scratch, a different board, a different this, a different that. How do you swap the processor? How to swap memories? How do you build a brand new computer? So like age 16, I was teaching master students, how to build a computer and stuff like that. From that, I came to Canada when I was 18 to do part of my undergrad in Edmonton. And as soon as I got back to Brazil, I was like 19, 20. I started really working. So I got back to Brazil. I got my first full-time job. So I was working during the day, studying at night, computer science. At the time, I was an ERP developer. I was the youngest of the company. I was like 19 years old among people that were 30, 40 years old. And I was always a very fast developer. So they would give me the features to develop with estimations for a week, and I would finish in a day or something like that. And that made them really like me and give me more challenges and more challenges and more challenges. And I stayed on that position until the end of college, more or less. From there, during that time while I was doing that in college, I got into open source software really hard. By the end of college, I was running the Brazilian community for Ubuntu. I was the national leader for Ubuntu Linux in Brazil. And I started traveling around. I told my mom, I've been working all throughout college. I just gonna take 6 months off. I'm not gonna do anything. She was crazy, completely crazy with me. What are you thinking about? And I just start traveling to conferences and shows with Ubuntu Linux and delivering talks and this and that. And in the middle of that, one company offered me a position in another city in Brazil. So I took, it was a pre and post sales engineering position. So they had a system and I was the pre-sales and post-sales engineer, uh, adapting the solution to the customer's need and to give them an actual quote and then actually delivering those for them. That lasted for about a year to two when I got the opportunity from a multinational to be an IT manager. So I was like 24, 25 tops. And this very big company that was bought by Honeywell Group. So you see the scale of what I'm talking. They brought me in to be their IT manager, and at the time they were building a factory in Brazil. So what they did, they bought a small Brazilian company, and they hired 4 managers: one for IT, one for people, one for facilities, and one for operations. And the 4 of us, we were responsible for building the new company in Brazil, building the factory, all the systems, all the production lines, this and that. And the facilities manager, which is a friend of mine, he didn't stay long with us. So it ended up on me and the operations manager to build a new factory. So I, instead of doing only systems and infrastructure, I had to do high voltage, compressed air, production lines, parking lot, HVAC, everything that I needed to do for the plant. And I tell people I learned a lot of management from that, way more than a college would teach me, because I was on the field managing 300 people building that factory.
Wow.
Right. And I stayed with that company for quite a few years until it was time for me to go back to my city. I was away from my parents. I wanted to go back to my city. Got a few other jobs after that, growing throughout the management ladder, all the way to my last job in Brazil, where I was managing the points of presence for the academic internet in the country. It's like Internet 2 in the US, or Canary in Canada, or Gian in Europe. So it's the network that connects all the universities, all the colleges, all the researchers. And I was managing over 300 people distributed across the country on that position. I was there for almost 80 years. And it was, again, a completely different job from the previous ones that I had, because it wasn't too much hands-on. It was more relationship and managing teams. But it was very different because it was the first time I actually managed teams across a wide region without being physically present with them all the time. And it was a very good school for me to learn a lot about people management, and how do you motivate people, how do you keep people connected, even though they're not in the same city, they're not in the same office, and create a culture about a team, right? So and I was very successful. I created a culture that wasn't there before. I had pretty much zero turnover on my team, even though my team was really underpaid in the Brazilian market. We had zero turnover because they just wanted to belong to that. It was such a belonging feeling that they had, that they just didn't want to leave. It's not always about the money, right? It's about doing something that makes sense for you. And after that, I decided to come back to Canada. This time I was already as an entrepreneur. I always thought about being an entrepreneur. You asked that question since I was young. My uncle was an entrepreneur. I always thought about myself being an entrepreneur, but I always knew that I had to get the baggage first to become an entrepreneur. You can do it at 20. Yeah, you can do it at 20, but you don't have the baggage to do it streamlined. Let's say you're gonna have way more bumps on the road if you're doing it at 20 than doing it at 40.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you know how things work.
Yeah.
So, and I also didn't want to open a business in Brazil because it's too bureaucratic, it's too complicated. I never wanted to open a business in Brazil. But when I decided to move back to Canada, I say, hey, since I'm moving back, I'm leaving my job. It was perfect job for anyone in Brazil. I was getting more than I could spend. I had tenure, so wouldn't be fired, was doing what I liked. It was an amazing job, but I wanted something else. And when I decided to come to Canada, I said, hey, since I'm moving, I'm already crazy enough to change my country. Trying to open a company is just a little bit more crazy. If I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to take all the risk at once.
Okay. Makes sense.
So when I was coming to Canada, I know a founder from a company back home in Brazil. He's a teenage years friend from mine. We used to go out together, bars, clubs, everything together. And he has a very successful startup in Brazil that does data analytics. And when I was coming, like 6 months before coming, I told him, "Hey, have you thought about Canada?" Right? I said, "No, but show me what Canada can be." I scheduled 2 weeks from there a pitch presentation for him. So I came actually with a pitch for him on what Canada could do for his company, comparing market size to Brazil, market composition to Brazil, all of that. And I showed him that the markets were pretty similar. So if he was doing this much in Brazil, he could probably do the same much in Canada because market size is pretty comparable in his sector. And he said, "Okay, I trust you. You're good to go. If you want to do it, take the company to Canada, start selling. You're exclusive in Canada. All deals in Canada are yours. That's it." And I arrived in Canada January 2020. The company was open before I arrived in Canada. So while I was coming, I was talking to lawyers, everything. So I landed, the company was already open. And I started working on building a pipeline, selling this to clients. And 2 months in that journey, COVID comes.
Yeah.
Right? And this company was providing data analytics on top of Wi-Fi access data. So depends on physical presence on the stores. So COVID killed the deal for me. I still kept trying to sell that for almost 2 years. But I don't know if you know, but Toronto was the most closed up city in the Americas during COVID.
Wow.
So it was the most restrictive city in the Americas for COVID. So Toronto was pretty much closed for 2 years, which was the time I was trying to sell this thing. Didn't work out. In the middle of the journey, my bank account was almost empty. So I started looking for other stuff. I got a contractor job with a company doing fractional CTO work. And I did it parallel to the other company for a while. But once I was doing a lot of money on this new fractional CTO gig, then I just stopped doing the other one because I didn't have the time anymore to do both at the same time. And I was on that company for about 3 years. I went from contractor all the way to associate partner on the company. And December 2023, they had a bump on their cash flow. The economy in Canada was kind of icky, interest rates were going up, the economy was slowing down, nobody knew what was going to happen. So we decided to part ways, and I decided to open up my new business, right? So I'm actually competing with them nowadays. So I'm a competition to them, but I do a different spin on things. I think I like doing things in a little bit different way than they do. And I think there's space in the market for everybody. So if they do their thing good, if I do my thing good, everybody's happy, everybody wins. So
Absolutely.
that's
Wow.
my
That's
journey from teenage years all the way to here.
amazing. What a story. What a story. And what part of that journey, what part of the story, Mario, do you think was the most challenging time? What time do you think you leveled up the most? And sort of, there were some lessons you went through that molded you to the person you are today.
I think there are a few points in that story. I think the first point was when I was really young, like 25, and that company gave me the shot to be a manager, right? I wasn't ready, but they gave me a shot, and they trusted I could handle it, right? And on top of that, then I had to also build the factory. So I worked like crazy. I learned a lot, but it gave me a lot of the base for who I am today. Of course, I had mentors. The operations manager for that company is a mentor up to today. He molded a lot of who I am as a leader, and I learned a lot from that. I think the second hardest one was when I joined the academic internet in Brazil, and my role was to unify all the points of presence. And it's a tricky position, and nobody in the company wanted that position. That's why they had to hire outside, because nobody wanted to do it, because it was kind of a hot potato. you know the problem is each point of presence is run by a team of researchers from that university, and usually the the highest level manager for that point of presence is like a PhD in networking, neural networking or whatever, and those people there, they know what they're talking about, and if you slip a little bit on your technical, they're gonna eat you alive, right? So I had 27 teams like that across the country, and I was still pretty young. I was like 33, 34 at the time, I think. Yeah, around, no, 32 probably when I got there. And at age 32, I was still pretty young. And I was managing people like 20 years older than myself. There are PhDs and some of the most prominent names in computer science in the country, and I had to manage them. So how do you manage those people? How do you make them work with you and not go against you? So that was a big challenge, and I learned a lot. I read a lot about psychology, about neural language programming, and all of that stuff, because I needed to get the tools to do what I needed to do with those people who actually were on a higher caliber than myself. But I was put in place to create a community out of them, right? I wasn't there to manage their daily chores or tasks or whatever. I was there to create a community out of all those teams. And that was challenging because even though I had done communities on open source before, it's very different when you're doing community with people who want to contribute with something versus doing a community for people who are paid to do something.
That makes
Right.
sense. Yep.
So the community, what I did on open source actually helped me to do that job, but it's a little bit different. The what motivates people is a little bit different. There, people just want to be part of something. Here, they're getting paid for it. So I had to tweak it a little bit so they wanted to be a part of that community, right? So it's similar but different.
Got it. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, if we can look at maybe a wider perspective of market trends, shifts that are happening, what are you seeing in the industry? What are some perhaps changes in the last few months and years you've seen, right? And how people are adapting? And maybe if we look towards the future, maybe the next few years to come, how do you think the market is going to shift? And what are some trends that you're seeing in the industry?
Yeah, on technology, I think I'm gonna say what everybody's saying, and it's reality. It's AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Like 5 years ago was blockchain. Before that was something else. There's always something coming on technology. I think people still don't understand what AI is, especially for non-technical people. A lot of people come to me nowadays saying, "I need AI to solve this problem for my company." And when they explain it to me, it's an algorithm. It's logical. And I tell them, you don't need AI. You need a programmer to codify that logic. That's it. But there's a lot that AI can do, and I've been working on a few AI projects that are very interesting, very, very interesting projects on AI. I don't know what the next trend will be. I think the next trend may be from the little signals I'm seeing on the market is AI being more tangible. And when I say tangible, it's being more on edge devices like wearables, like your watch, like your
Yeah,
eyeglasses, or maybe your Peloton will have some sort of AI, or your car will have some sort of AI. I think AI is gonna migrate more to the edges and use its fast reasoning, which is not actually reasoning, but its fast reasoning capabilities to help people on the edge instead of being just a chat interface that people are using. So
absolutely.
I think the next trend is going to be more taking AI to the edge and making AI more tangible on things we're using, like watches,
Yeah,
glasses, cars, fridges. I don't know. I don't know where it can go. There's tons of applications that you can put AI on, but I think it's going to get closer to our lives instead of just a chat on the screen.
absolutely. Very well said. Now, I guess more on the business side of things, right? So, what are some areas of the business that you think are going really, really well? And, you're going strength to strength and some areas you're really proud of in the business. And what are some areas of the business where you're having some challenges and some hurdles you're looking to overcome? And, perhaps you've already overcome them, or perhaps you're going through a process now. And how are you going to look to overcome them for perhaps somebody in a similar position that can kind of take some guidance and take some advice from?
Yeah, I think the business doing really good on deliveries. I think the company has been instilled with my values, and my values are do what is right, do what needs to be done, don't take shortcuts, deliver quality things. And does the company is having those same values and delivering that way. And that helps a lot because I don't know everywhere in the world, and I've said to everybody that depending on the market you are, things are different.
Yeah.
Different cultures are completely different markets. And in Canadian market, it's all about who you know. It's all about referral. It's all about trust. It's all about looking in the eye, shaking hands, and all of that. And that's the reason I need a business to have my values, because when you deliver quality like that, it's marketing for yourself. People are gonna talk about your services and they're gonna refer you. So my business, and then it's gonna come into my difficulties. My business is highly on referral business, and we're doing good. We're doing great on referrals, but it takes longer to scale. Especially when you're talking about, we also do software development, but when we're talking about fractional CTO, which is a C-suite role, it's based on trust. The CEO has to trust you for you to be his fractional CTO. It's very hard for you to scale on digital marketing or cold outreach, all of that, right? It's very hard on that because you gotta build that trust before you sell. So I always tell people when I want my sales cycle on a cold outreach, it's usually 6 months. My sales cycle on referral has gone down all the way to 48 hours. So my biggest contract on the company right now, it's still the biggest because I have another one about to sign, but it's still the biggest on the company right now. It was a 48-hour sales cycle from the first conversation to contract signed and deposit paid was 48 hours, and it was a referral.
Got you. Got you. Now, what do you think, accounts for that, level of trust that you're able to build through referrals? Is it just that having that importance on the culture and people know you, or is it people know the business? What do you think has more of importance when it comes to referrals? And is
Oh,
it people know
it's
you and trust you? Or is it the business name that
it's
people know?
definitely knowing you. I always tell everybody, people make business with people, not businesses, right? So it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm with this company today and another company tomorrow, the people that trust me will follow me, not the
Yeah,
business, right? But since it's my business, they trust that my values and what they trust about me
got it.
is
Are in the business.
incorporated in my business, right?
Absolutely.
So people definitely make business with people, and they are gonna follow you if they trust you. And building that trust is not easy, right? It's like any friendship or any relationship. You gotta nurture it. You gotta meet the person once, twice, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9 times before they actually know who you are and trust you to refer you. So it's been a long journey for me on networking events and meeting people and going to as many events as I can so they see me several times and actually learn about myself. It's not like I go to an event, I give somebody a business card, and that's it. It takes a long time for you to build that relationship to get to a point where they trust you.
Absolutely. Amazing. And I guess, to wrap up on, what does the future look like for yourself, for the business? I know you've probably got some big, big goals on the vision board, but if we're talking the next 6 to 12 months, what does the future look like? Is it a metric number you're looking to expand? Is it very much keeping the focus on quality and delivering a good service? Or is it even impact, leaving behind a good impact within the industry?
Yeah, I
What
think
does
I think numbers are always good. We're not doing charity, we're doing a business, right? But I think my biggest goal is impact. And I think the way I think about it is if you deliver the impact, the money will come,
Yeah,
right? So I always tell people my biggest indicators would be impact on society, on the industry, on the client's needs, and most importantly, on my personnel, my
yeah,
people, right? So when I'm hiring people, I always tell them, of course, this is a business. I'm gonna pay you to deliver something, but my biggest success factor for this leader and collaborator relationship is, if 30 years from now I see you're in a super high position and you're doing super well, and I know I have a little thing to collaborate in your journey getting there. People helped me that way when I was young, right? And it's now my turn to help other people get there. So I'm super, super happy when I see people that worked for me. I have people that worked for me. They were interns and now they are managers, directors, CTOs, right? And some of them still talk to me like in a mentor like, vibe. And for me, that's great because I see that I had a huge impact on their lives. And that comes back. I think if you do good, it comes back to you at some point in your life. And it always helps. And the same with the clients, if I solve my client's pain point, I'm happy because they're going to be a happy client and they're going to refer me to somebody else, even if that somebody else doesn't need me, but that somebody else might know somebody else that needs me, So it's creating that, network where people are talking about you in a good way, that it's somehow going to reach a person that actually needs your services in the end. And it's not by doing tons of marketing. It's not by doing tons of stuff. It's just by doing what is right and getting the results back.
Absolutely. Amazing. So, Mario, with that, thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed myself, and I hope you have, and I'm sure everybody watching has really learned a lot. So, before we do wrap up, is there any closing comments, perhaps for team members, clients, any people in your network watching, any closing comments you might have for people?
I would just say to everybody, trust yourself, do your best, don't back out from your values, and things are going to come to you. It's all about doing what is right, doing the best you can, and maintaining your values to get there.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well, big thank you to you, Mario. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. And we'll catch everyone next time. Bye-bye.